My pleasure to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. Madam Clerk, I understand we have no regrets, and I'm sure Councillor Giddings will join us in progress.
Mayor Burton, Councillor Giddings was actually regrets earlier today.
Well then, he won't be joining us. All right, everyone, I invite everyone to join Council in O Canada. Thank you, everyone. In 1820, Indigenous people here began welcoming settlers from all over the British Empire. Soon, they were helping Black people from the United States to settle here too, both slave and free people who were in danger of being forced into slavery. Today, our Indigenous founding partners are still here enjoying the land with us. They fish and camp under their treaty rights. Indigenous people also live with us as neighbors and friends. Our Indigenous white and Black settlers created a community with an attractive degree of harmony and prosperity. In 1857, Ontario gave official recognition of Oakville as a town. At Town Hall, all of these years later, we fly the flag of the Mississaugas of the Credit beside the flags of Oakville, Ontario, and Canada. We fly these flags together to acknowledge our origins. People from all over the world are attracted to the livability we've created. We offer newcomers a warm spirit of welcome. We offer everyone our founding story, so everyone knows what we are part of. We feel sorrow and distress for acts of racism and intolerance suffered across Canada and here at home. We want our future to be equitable and inclusive for everyone. The path of truth and reconciliation can keep us together when others try to break us apart. Please keep well, stay safe, and let us on Council know of any chance to be helpful to you and yours. Please let us know anytime you can help increase Oakville's harmony, prosperity, and livability. As noted by the clerk, Councillor Giddings is unable to join us this evening. Councillors, are there declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Knoll.
Good evening. Thank you, Your Worship. I wish to declare a conflict on item 11.2, which is entitled OLT Appeal Kerr Street OPA. And I'm declaring that pecuniary interest because I'm the director, shareholder, and officer of two corporations that lease the entirety of the land and buildings at 171 Spears Road. This is a property that is subject to this council items and the deliberations, therefore.
Okay. Well, I imagine we'll go into camera and we'll try to leave you out of that.
I get to go home early.
Perhaps. Maybe what we can do is we can slip that to last, and that way you can go into camera for the other items, and then we'll let you leave as you say that you can go home early.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Council, you have 10 public consent items. Are there any that you would like to separate? Councillor Hazlitt-Thiel and then Councillor O'Meara.
Mayor Burton, you have confirmation of the minutes that was next, and I have a question on 4.3.
Oh, thank you. Well, please ask it.
So the Residents Associations on February 27th shared with council that they had actually summarized the written comments on the charts of the February 15th public information meeting. And they have asked me that the minutes either be note their concern or another suggestion that you may make because they do not reflect accurately the public comments that are on the chart. And in particular, they reference support for tall buildings, mixed, or make sure I get my words right, tall buildings, densification, mixed heights. And I'm sure it's just a question of trying to summarize, but it is a historical record and they'd like it to be corrected.
Well, do you have a correction to move?
Well, I'd move that the summary of the staff report for February 15th public information meeting reflect that there was concerns related to tall buildings, densification, and mixed heights.
So I'm sorry, just repeat the date again. 26th, did you say?
Well, it was February 15th, the public information meeting was, and the minutes are recorded for February 27th.
Ah, thank you. So I'm looking at them and having trouble understanding where that would be put. Can you assist me, please?
Well, it would have to go under 5.1 where there were delegations, but it was also they spoke to the Midtown program. And in that written report, it should actually say there were concerns with tall towers, densification, and mixed heights. And those words are encapsulated in the staff report. So I'll take your advice, Mayor Burton, but they are correct that the comments that were on the chart are not accurately reflecting what was on the charts.
Okay, so the minutes are not the report. So you can't amend a report by amending the minutes. And am I understanding you correctly that what you want to do is make a change to a report? There was a report received, right?
I believe it was. So I guess my only other option then, I guess, is to wait for the staff summary of the comments and to have it noted then. Would that work? Because the residents really are very concerned that it's an historical document and it's not reflecting what was there.
Okay, so I'm not sure it's a historical document, but let's leave that aside. Minutes under the Municipal Act are meant to be a record of decisions taken without note or comment. I paraphrase only slightly what the Act says. So I think you're right. You should wait for another. You should wait for another moment when the views of the public are on the table.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I just they asked for it, and I would concur that they have a concern. But I'll defer it to another time then. Thank you.
Super. Thank you, Councillor O'Meara.
Yeah, Your Worship, we could just separate out item 8.3. And if there are no other objections to the rest, I'd move the rest with that separation.
Thank you very much. We will get there momentarily, and I am grateful for your assistance on that item. Can I get a mover and seconder for the minutes? Councillor Knoll and Councillor Grant. Councillor Hazlitt-Thiel.
Mayor Burton, I would like to separate 8.5 out as well.
Okay, we'll do that when we get there. I'm chasing down. We're completing the minutes thanks to your timely reminder. Is there any objection to the motion by Councillor Knoll and Councillor Grant? Madam Clerk, there being no objection, the minutes are adopted. Now, if anyone is watching the live stream of the meeting on oakville.ca and wishes to speak to any item on the council agenda, you may do so by calling 905-815-6095, and we will connect you to the meeting. You will be called upon to speak following any other registered delegations. At this time, we need a mover and seconder to resolve into committee of the whole. That would be Councillors Chinna and Councillor Nanda. Thank you. Any objection? And being none, that carries. Thank you. And now we are separating 8.3 and 8.5 from the public consent items. And I have a motion from Councillor O'Meara for the balance. And is there any objection to Councillor O'Meara's motion? Madam Clerk, there being none, Councillor O'Meara, your motion carries. Thank you for that. And 8.3, Councillor, you have the screen.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just a question to staff on page 8 in the updated actions. When we get down to the accountable government slide with Oakville Marina's business model review, that's been pushed to Q1 2026. We recently found out that the federal process for the Brawny Outer Harbor building is going to go through a substantially longer period of time than we had initially thought to transfer it to the town. So I'm wondering if we might be able to look at what we can do sort of short to midterm with that building, rather than wait until 2026 and then begin a process and then might we be able to put that into our action plan sooner rather than later about what we can do with that building to utilize it to its potential as it is now?
Thank you, Councillor, through you, Mr. Mayor, for that question. Let me take that back to discuss with the team to see what we can do between now and then.
Okay, thanks. And not to put you on the spot, but can I expect to hear back like in the next few months, or I don't want to lock you down, but I also don't want to hear back from you like in Q4 of 2025.
How about I get back to the council in Q2? That will give me a little bit of flexibility.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If you would be good enough to move 8.3, Mr. Councillor O'Meara, that would be welcome.
Happy to move.
Thank you. Any objection to Councillor O'Meara's motion? There being none, that carries. Councillor Haslett-Deal, 8.5, you have the screen and the mic.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. My question is, and maybe to the treasurer or the CAO, as we all know, we have the public concerned about the justice system, about the ability to support our justice providers. And when I read the report, I just want to understand if there is any additional support that could change or support greater Crown prosecutors or more time within the realm of the Halton Court Services business plan. I note that it says that we want to wait on taking on phase 3 until it's mandatory. But we have a simmering issue, as we all know, because of a lack of a courthouse and a lack of enough resources to move other judicial matters forward. And I'm wondering if the treasurer or the CAL could just address, is there any additional support that we could provide that might make a difference?
Through you, Mayor Burton, in advance of the CAO speaking to it, I think we would have to take that back to Halton Court Services. I can't, off the top of my head, think of anything we could add into the budget, but we could certainly take that back.
Mayor Burton, the only thing I would add from the comments is that the one of the most important impediments, I think, to the speed in processing the court's business is the lack of justices of the peace And there has been an outstanding request that's been into the province. And in fact, I think we have an intergovernmental request that looks at pushing that forward in getting more justices of the peace assigned. We do have the courthouse, though, in Burlington, so the court facility itself is sufficient, I think, for the needs, and they're making a few changes more on the technology side in order to support it. But the most important piece for that is the justice of the peace in terms of the speed.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Perhaps, Councillor, you'd like to move the item now?
Happy to, Mayor Burton.
Thank you. I would note, is there any objection to Councillor Hazelsteel's motion? There being none, that carries. Congratulations. Thank you, Councillor. I will note that there's a lack of judges as well, and that's a federal responsibility. And I've heard people say that the lack of justices of the peace and judges, both those deficiencies, must be being done in order to strengthen what cynics call the catch and release justice system in Ontario. Cases are being lost because of lack of judges. Councillor Hazelsteel?
Mayor Burton, I could stand to be corrected, but I believe that the provincial judges are assigned by the Attorney General of the province of Ontario. Though I do concur all levels of the government need to get their act together so we can actually get on with it.
Yes, it's federal judges that are also missing, and the justices of the peace, of course, are provincial. So, you know, that's the sad situation. We need more justice. Council, we have 3 confidential consent items, and I'm proposing that if you want to adopt any of them as presented, we take a motion for any of those that you want to adopt now. And any you don't want to adopt now, I will slip down to the end of the meeting with the other confidential items, so that we don't inconvenience the public or confuse anybody unduly. Councillor Elgar?
Thank you, through Mayor Burton. 9.3, if we could move that to the other discussion item confidential under 11, I would appreciate it.
Yep, can
Thank
do.
you.
Maybe I'll come back to you for a motion for the other 2. Councillor Adams.
Sure.
Oh, thank you very much. I was going to ask for the same thing, so I'll give you a motion to approve items 9.1 and 9.2.
Councillor Elgar already volunteered. I'm sorry.
Done.
Thank you, Councillor Elgar. Is there any objection to Councillor Elgar's motion? Madam Clerk, there is none, and so 9.1 and 9.2 are adopted as presented. And 9.3 is moving downstream to the confidential section. And that brings us to our 4 discussion items. We have a presentation available if you want it from Jalil Hashimi and Chris Mark, and otherwise, and we have a registered delegation. So, Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to hear both those presentations. Reading these reports are very detailed and comprehensive, and I'm really intrigued with some of the changes and the future of our forestry section. So I'd like to hear those presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. I was hoping someone would say that. Chris and Jalil, are you ready to go?
Good evening, Mayor Burton, members of council. Staff are here this evening with 2 forestry reports for you this evening, and we're pleased to present the Urban Forest Strategic Management Plan as well as the update to the private tree bylaw. So with that quick introduction, I'll turn it over to Jalil Hashemi, our Manager of Forestry Services, to walk you through the presentations. Thank you, Mayor Burton.
Thank you, Mr. Mark.
Thank you, Your Worship, and the member of council. Urban Forest Strategic Management Plan. Next, please. Climate change is one of our most pressing global challenges impacting all types of communities, including urban areas. Climate change mitigation remains an important goal to which Canada's urban forest can make an important contribution. Urban forests filter air pollution, generate oxygen, provide habitat for biodiversity, reduce stormwater runoff, and add living beauty to communities, making cities healthier and more livable. Sustainably managed forests are among our most important tools for addressing climate change. Next, please. The plan reviews the current status of urban forests, assess the implementation progress, and provide a strategic direction and recommendation to achieve a sustainable and healthy urban forest and 40% urban forest canopy cover target by 2057. Next. Four consulting team members led by KBM Resource Group, all of them had previous experience providing urban forest strategic management plan for many municipalities, including Oakville for North Dundas. Core working group members from different departments actively participated in this project, and we had input from stakeholder focus group, from external non-government, government organization, and developer liaison. Next. We have milestone as key development, town key development in urban forest sustainability, starting from assessment on quantification of urban forest services and ecological benefits, from mayor's official plan to achieve 40% canopy cover by 2057, to the town winning local planning appeal tribunal to increase landscape width in the zoning bylaw, and also forestry services review, which enhanced and the customer service and reduced forestry deliverables in all of the service requests that we received in 2018. Next. The 5 indicators of urban forest canopy and sustainability shows that we increased significantly from 26.5% of urban forest canopy in 2005 to 2015 and 18, having 32.6% south of Dundas. The total number of trees increased 100,000, more than 100,000 within 10 years, roughly 10,000 trees a year. Average tree condition improved from 76.8% to 83%. Trees in good and excellent condition. Woodland health showed positive responses to management activities. However, the presence of abundance of invasive species European buckthorn increased from 2% of the population to 10.6%. Next. You can see the trend of urban forest canopy cover increase from 26.5 to 30.6%. And if you add North Oakville, next please, having 27.6% north, overall townwide canopy cover is 31.2%. And if you compare this with 14 other municipalities, next please, we will see that Oakville is at the top. This is 14 other municipalities have done urban forest cover analysis. I actually studied more than just Ontario municipalities like Vancouver and other. I did not find any other municipality in Canada having higher tree canopy than Oakville. Next, please. In 2015, we find out that we do have a significant increase in buckthorn. We started our woodland regeneration with the activity of buckthorn removal and treatment, and you will see the trend starting from 3.98 hectares in 2016, increased to 32.21 in 2024. Overall, about 190 hectares of our woodland, which is about 1/4 of all of the woodland south of Dundas, we treated buckthorn and removed. The outcome, we don't know the impact. In 2024, we do have I3 study. In 2025, you will see how our effort shows its result and outcome. In all of that woodland, we planted trees and shrubs. Next slide, please. And you can see how many trees, starting from 2016, planted in those woodlands. The 2024 commitment is 58,225 trees. In total, over 230,000 trees have been planted within 8 years. Next. Next, please. The plan have been developed with consideration of monitoring data from previous plan and input from town staff and stakeholders. We find out and identified 6 priorities. Forest protection, highlighted in the report that Oakville strengthened tree bylaw, collaboration among different departments, and great support from councillor and community resulted in preserving thousands of healthy trees and make Oakville a great leader in forest protection. Furthermore, undertaking a comprehensive lean process in all tree permit review, having the main objective of improving the business process, decreasing the timeline of application review, resulted in establishing a single point of contact and organized all tree-related resources in forestry services, making the tree protection more efficient and effective for all internal and external customers. Tree planting and establishments. Oakville Enhanced Tree Planting Program helped increase the town tree canopy cover. The plan identifies opportunities to integrate more trees and targeting areas of low cover. Next. The Urban Forest Enhanced Tree Planting Program and the urban forest in Oakville, regardless of enhanced program, are undergoing the pressure from invasive species, pest and disease. The plan explains how forest health monitoring, active management help the town to maintain a healthy and resilient urban forest. Next. The town climate change strategy identifies an increase in severity and frequency of extreme weather. The plan identifies the need for continual improvement in our emergency response and business recovery plan. Next. 58% of land south of Dundas are non-town land, having 47% of tree canopy. It is highlighted in the report that the town should shift focus to private property and promote a strategic partnership with other landowners and community groups. Next. Factors like climate change, invasive species, pests, and disease exert ongoing pressure on the urban forest. Urban forest management should be adaptable to dynamic and changing environment by utilizing the data to make evidence-based decisions. Next. This is a canopy cover target for land use, all land uses south of Oakville. In 2012, Oakville established canopy cover target for north of Oakville. Due to lack of canopy cover target per land uses for south, we adapted and applied North Oakville canopy cover for south. Extensive study, remote sensing, GIS analysis, 4,500 plots provided enough evidence that we are not able to achieve 40% canopy cover target if we apply North Oakville target for residential land uses in the south. North Oakville residential land use target is 20%. And with 20%, not only we cannot achieve 40%, we're going to actually decrease the canopy cover that we do have now. Extensive analysis has been done. We came up with the third column in this report, which tells us for all targets. 45% for residential A and 30% for residential B. Residential A, in terms of zoning, are the land uses that does have over 7.5 meter front yard setback. In terms of, again, language of zoning, RL1, RL2, RL10, RL20. Those are residential class A. Those are the residential classes that have much higher canopy cover target, 44.2%. Residential B is the other land uses, all other land uses south of Dundas. Their current canopy is 22.1%. The target 45% for A and 30% for B was kind of a very high target. We had extensive internal debate on that. It was communicated to the consultant that those targets are too high. We couldn't find at the beginning what is the solution. Finally, we'll find the solution of excluding the road allowances in residential land uses, maximizing the town contribution of the canopy cover or on town road allowances, and reduce the pressure from development in private parts of the residential land. 35% and 25% are the minimum canopy cover that we need to meet by 2057 to be able to achieve 40% canopy cover in the town. Next. The importance of residential. Why residential land uses south is so important. 44.3% of the land uses south of Dundas are residential land uses. That covers on its own 37% of our canopy cover, more than our woodland south. On the other side, natural heritage system of woodland, north of Oakville, provide us 30% of the total land. And that on its own provide us almost 68% of our canopy cover for north. That's the significance of importance of residential land use south and North Oakville natural heritage system of woodland. Next. This is the challenging land uses. The challenge is when our current canopy cover is lower than the target and the potential is lower. That's going to be very challenging. So for the first one, residential A, our current canopy cover is 43.3%. Our target is less, which is good. The potential for this land use is 56%. That makes us kind of very relieved. So the second one, residential B, the current canopy cover is 21%. The target is 25%. The potential is 28%. So still, we can manage that. Woodland and Natural Heritage System, the current canopy for south is 64%. The target is 90%. Our potential has been studied as 80%. This is when we need more investment and more effort. The current canopy for north has not been studied. That 27% is just a pilot example of 100 hectares of assumed woodland that internally we calculated is not a well-represented of the whole. We know the potential for north. It has been recorded in North Oakville Strategic Management Plan as being 86%, and the target is 90%, which is manageable, but again, requires investment and efforts. Next. The main overarching challenges and opportunities at high level to achieve 40% canopy cover are included in this slide. Increased urban density require different solution to grow canopy cover. Next. Limited town-owned land for tree planting south Dundas required a strategic partnership with other landowners and community groups. Next. The town will only be able to achieve 40% canopy cover by 2057 through implementation of newly adapted targets for residential land uses in south, as well as canopy cover targeting different land uses through the town. Next. Invasive species have substantially increased in presence and abundance on both private and public land. Next. And the impact of development on canopy cover can be assessed once the data of trees removed and planted in development application are available. Next. There are 6 recommendations out of 24 recommendations in the report selected to address those identified main challenges and opportunities. Implementing these recommendations enable the town to enhance the sustainability of urban forest and achieve town-wide 40% canopy cover. Again, implementing recommended canopy cover target for north and south, amending the criterion and indicated for private tree regulated under private tree protection bylaw to minimize the removal of healthy tree and enforce tree replacement where possible, rather than accepting cash in lieu instead of tree replacement. Utilize all available data on tree removal and tree planting in non-development and development application to make evidence-based decision on canopy cover impact in Oakville. Next. Continue maximizing tree planting on public land and private land and application of enhanced rooting environment techniques. Develop an invasive species management plan and implement interim management action to address high priority areas and early response action. And the last one, dedicate resource to outreach and partnership development, manage mutually beneficial and effective strategic business arrangement and agreement with external partners. However, I need to add undertaking continual process review in every program in forestry, including the area of outreach and partnership development. Forestry was able to use its existing resources and reassign responsibility among the staff in tree planting and invasive business units to assist, on average, having an average 25 NGOs tree planting a year, and initiated dialogue with the school boards and MTO and CH to promote tree planting without any additional financial cost or staffing for the town of Oakville. Next, and in conclusion, Oakville had made progress on its strategic forestry goals, demonstrated leadership through meaningful integration of tree canopy plan in plan review. Foundational work has been completed and incremental improvement are ongoing. And the progress shows the town is on the right track to achieve 40% tree canopy by 2057. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jalil. That was an inspirational report full of daunting challenges. And a forest of hands is up. We're going to start with Councillor Shi, and then, well, you all can see your hands so you know who's next. Councillor Shi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just a comment. So this report, I really like to read. I read 2 times, so it's truly impressive. So it's not only just informatic, it's like present to read. The document, I think, is very clean, well organized, and packed with all the valuable information. Even the pictures chosen. So I think this is a fantastic resource for everyone who want to read this report. And I also take great pride in being a citizen of Oakville, which boosts the highest canopy cover in Ontario and Canada. So I would love to move this motion, this plan be received. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Noted. Councillor Elgar.
Thank you. Through Burton to Jalil. Jalil, the recommendations, they really jumped out on page 38 of the report, and you mentioned again, you have to amend the criteria. What do you need from council to get that done?
Through you, Your Worship, thank you, Councillor, for the questions. The next report is private tree bylaw update. In that update, I provided a tree protection, private tree protection procedure. By receiving that, you are giving us the ability to process the tree removal application the way that the rate of denial application is going to increase, and the number of healthy tree removal is going to be reduced, and that is targeted for achieving 40% canopy cover.
Okay, so even though we're receiving the report, you don't need more direction from us. This is enough for you to move forward.
Through you, Your Worship, the 2 reports, both of them kind of complementing each other. And in first report, you will see that different department requires to adapt different canopy cover target for residential land uses. That is once the report received, this will be adapted for every properties under Planning Act, which is site plan. And then the remaining is private tree bylaw in order to achieve canopy cover targets. Using private tree bylaw, the tree protection procedure, which is an appendix to the next report, should be received, need to be received. In conjunction, it will enable us to achieve the 40% canopy.
Okay, because the one that jumped off the table was the cash compensation, where you're saying we should not be taking that going forward. So you can go ahead with that and get that going forward. I appreciate that. I thank you. Thanks very much. Great report.
Thank you both. The motion being requested is to, in the first place, receive the report, and then the second part of the recommendation is that the recommendations of the Urban Forest Strategic Management Plan be incorporated within the business planning of the forestry section, parks and open space department. So that's an approval, not just a receipt. And then staff is to report back within 3 years to assess the impact. So I think in combination with Jalil's answer, we have some assurance that we are actually taking some action here. Councillor Adams.
Thanks very much. I just had a question for you about the reliable access to quality growing stock on page 240 of 463 of the agenda, or page 53 of the plan. It notes the need for access to stock. And I wondered if staff have connected with Credit Valley Conservation for the possibility of using or accessing the Warwick Conservation Nursery to fulfill those needs. And if not, could they?
Through you, Your Worship, we actually are in active dialogue. We actually visited there, and they also asked us if they can join us. We can go to our supplier for street tree planting, because that supplier also does have a nursery himself. We're working together. We have an internal kind of business process with many municipalities at high level, upper tier region of Halton, Conservation Halton. We, on a monthly basis, we are talking to each other about that.
Great. Okay. I look forward to further developments on that then.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nanda.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you so much for the report. Very interesting. Just a couple of questions. One, I was very happy to see that you recommended no cash in lieu. I feel very particular. I feel that is something that maybe worked in the past, but I feel like cash in lieu, now we can't find enough spaces to make parks or now tree canopies. So I was very happy to see that, and of course would support that. I was a little unhappy to see though that in North Oakville, most of our tree canopy can only come from NHS. And that's due to the density that we have. And one of the beauties of Oakville and South Oakville has always been that there's tree canopies everywhere, all along Lakeshore, residential area. So wherever you go, you get to see these beautiful trees. I did have a question for either yourself or Chris, though, about on some of our streets in the north. I see, since I've been here for 10 years, and as the trees have grown, some of the streets have larger trees than some of our inner streets. And my question is, in the future at any time, because of the lack of space that we have, are we gonna have issues with the roots? Or if residents are planting in their backyards and 20, 30 years from now, the roots are growing, are we gonna start having issues with that?
Okay. Through your worship, the growing space above ground and below ground, both of them are essential for tree growth. We are going to have some limitation for above ground because the proximity to the building and underground, the root system, of less of a concern if we don't alter. So if the residents north don't want to widen the driveway or pave over the root zone of a tree and park there and let the tree grow, we're not going to have concern. If they continue doing that, we are going to have concern. For that reason, we should monitor. We don't have comparative study for north. We just have one. We know how many trees have been planted. We know that some of them are planted in 2016 and some of them later on. We haven't had an analysis about the tree growth to compare. In 2024, I3, we also go north Dundas, and we're going to measure the tree growth. By comparing the time of planting until today, we have a better idea about whether this growth is going to provide us the canopy target, which is 20%, mainly coming from street trees, not backyard trees. In the North Dundas or not, we can have a better answer in 2025 after receiving the I3 report in 2024.
Okay, and I know we've had to do some tree trimming over time because of sightline issues and whatnot. So is it that in most of the residential areas, like there won't be any kind of tree canopies? The majority of our tree canopies are just going to be in the NHS?
Through you, your worship, we'll still provide 20% canopy in residential area. Not all of that, but because of the land north of Dundas, just 16% of the land are residential area. We don't have that many in terms of area. It's more condensed. That's 16%, provide overall 8.3% of 100% of the canopy in the north. On its own, they do have 20%. Whether we're going to achieve that 20% in 2025, we're going to, update you of the growth and how that growth is going to secure our canopy cover target. In terms of pruning, every 3 years, because again, above ground limitation for the tree growth and visibility problem, interfering with roads and sidewalk and driveway, every 3 years we are going to proactively pruning North Dundas street trees.
And just a last question. So do you see this in the future? This is going to become problems with when we develop Midtown and we develop Palermo, that there's just going to be less space to have tree canopies?
Your worship, I don't consider that because we need to have enough evidence of information to comment on things. The first time that I can, with more confidence, share my concern is in 2025, if the result of our I-tree comparing the growth of the tree in the north tells us that your projection is not, you're not achieving what you project. So now I don't have concern. A preliminary study in Urban Forest Strategic Management Plan that we have done in a very small section of the north, trees planted in 2016, it shows that trees are growing to meet the canopy cover in the north, which is promising. For now, I should share with you that promising news that we are going toward meeting the canopy cover target of 20% in residential land uses north. But I can verify that with more confidence in 2025 after I-tree report.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you for the report.
Thank you, Councilor Nanda. Councilor O'Meara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Julia, thank you for the report. What public consultation have we done to make these changes to the private tree bylaw?
Private tree bylaw, the consultation did not happen about changing our criteria indicator. Within the private tree bylaw, under section 7.5, it tells that the town official can, assess whether the tree should be planted on the property or not. We can accept cash in lieu. It gives the authority to the town designated official to even comment about the species. Everything that we are suggesting within the terms and conditions of the existing private tree protection bylaw 2017-038. In terms of how private tree bylaw is important to achieve canopy cover, we had extensive consultation. We had actually meeting with residents, and they attended a online survey, Mentimeter, and they voted private tree protection as one of the highest valued tools to increase tree canopy, highly valued for providing greenery for the town of Oakville, and appreciated the effort. But in terms of using the terms and condition and regulation under the private tree bylaw, we did not consult. We are just implementing it.
Yeah, I know. I say that because probably this is the most hot button issue that I've been involved in the last go around when we brought this in. And when we tell people what they can and cannot do on their private property, it's very contentious to say the least. And I'm not against doing this at all, but I'm certainly not too comfortable with. So some people don't actually have space for new trees. There are many places on their private property where they don't have room to plant new trees. And the cash in lieu was always a way, if there was something going on, heaving, a tree was in good health, but it was starting to impact some things, they could still get recourse to do what they wanted to do on their private property and still satisfy our tree. So we're taking that as a tool away from them now, to make it more difficult if they need to do something there. So, and you and I know as well, we've been to some houses where chestnut trees make it absolutely impossible for people to use their driveway for 2 months of the year. We've had people be hospitalized over accidents due to chestnut trees. So how do we get some flexibility or some subjectivity whereby staff might be able to make a determination on a case by case basis if it's viable, rather than black and white, no cash in lieu, and where's the flexibility built into what we're looking at here?
Through you, Your Worship, thank you for the questions. Actually, the flexibility is there. If they have possible growing space, we tell them you should plant. If there's no and the indicator for assessing whether they are, the simple thing is 25% canopy cover. In an area which does have more than 44% canopy, if they do have 25%, and they don't have, it means that they have enough trees, then they can still pay cash in lieu. Where possible is in the procedure, and we added that. And I appreciate your comment about the chestnut. We're talking about chestnut or walnut. Let's better say, many people actually misidentify walnut and they call them chestnut. But walnut is a bigger of the issue. Town walnut tree is the main problem. People with private walnut tree, they can request the removal and they can remove their tree. And if they do have enough canopy cover, they don't need to plant. If they don't, then town designated official is going to tell them that how important is your contribution to provide the canopy cover that the town needs to better, breathe. And so for that reason, they have the canopy, the available growing space. We tell them that you should plant the tree in your property. And I acknowledge it is going to be challenging. And I do acknowledge that meeting 40% canopy cover target is a challenging task that so far we showed that we are capable of achieving it.
Well, I understand that. I mean, we've got an environment that's fighting against us to not, from drought to no snow coverage to invasive species. We want to try and hit this 40%. Everything's working against us, and I just have grave concerns. And I've been down this road before about people who say it's my property and I've got a backyard. I have grass in my backyard. I have a pool there. So canopy coverage doesn't really matter because I'm not planting a tree right in the middle of my grass backyard where my kids play soccer. So that one's difficult to convince people to do. We're sort of boxing people in a little bit here. And I'm wondering if there isn't a way that we can allow some subjectivity where if there is something going on like a walnut tree, then we can work that way. So I see Director Mark's got his hand up.
Councillor, Jalil read the section of the bylaw that is not changing and that gives the officials the very flexibility that you're asking for. And he has given you several instances where they do, in fact, see, believe, and understand the problem and offer flexibility. So you've been heard, and more than heard, you've been agreed with.
Sorry, Your Worship, I heard we talk to them and tell them how important trees are. That's what I heard as a response.
Oh, well, Mr. Mark, maybe you'd like to assist here.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. To Councillor Mira, that flexibility is still going to be there. We, on each tree removal application that comes in, we do have a consultation with the homeowner and have a conversation about removal of the tree, the merits of removing it, not removing it, the contribution, etc. We're not saying we're not going to ever take cash in lieu again. What we're saying to you is we are going to be firmer in how we want people to start planting trees on private property, because that's where we need to make the most gains. Right now, we're making it, I think, far too easier for people to take the easy way out, I'll call it, by paying cash instead of planting trees. So we are going to, as staff, we are going to start to, as I say, get firmer with people and requiring them to plant trees on their property. However, we do know the fact that in some cases that is not going to be possible. And staff have shown flexibility in the past. I speak to councils on numerous bases about special situations with residents, and we always seem to come to an amicable agreement. But there's hard choices to be made if we're going to meet this 40% canopy cover target. And this is one of the areas where we feel we're recommending to council that we have to take a firmer stand and we need to plant more on private property because Jalil has indicated we are pretty much totally stocked on our roads and in our parks, and we still need room for people to play in our parks and kids to throw frisbees and get soccer balls. So I hope this gives you some comfort that we are still going to show flexibility and latitude, but you may see more appeals coming forward because we're going to be telling people, no, you can't cut down that healthy tree because you're not willing to replant another tree on your property and you have room. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mark. Councillor, we hope that's helped you.
Thank you.
Councillor McNeese.
Through your worship, thanks Jalil and colleagues for the presentation there. That's certainly some great work. I just have one question about trees along the roadway, especially mature trees. It certainly seems like the hydro lines get in the way of it, those trees achieving their full canopy. And I've read about a few other municipalities that, you know, I can appreciate it's incredibly costly to bury wires, but as opportunities come up, there's a roadway reconstruction or, you know, whatever that's digging up the ground, they sort of look for small improvements there, burying wires so that the full canopy of these trees over roadways can be achieved. Is that something worth considering, or does it even move the needle much, or am I just disillusioned about this?
Through you, your worship, I do not see any concern. The reason is, as you noticed, the canopy cover that we study is a two-dimensional from above. We are looking from aerial photo or remote sensing images to the trees. What we're doing actually, we are removing the branches, which is targeting, and this branches, if they are above, for very mature trees, we're not, and they do have that 3 meters and 10 meters, or 3 feet, 3 feet and 10 feet from a primary line and secondary line, we don't prune them. There are, at times, we can see that in crown balance is kind of twisted. In 2010, actually, we have studied the impact of hydro line clearing in 1 year. We did not see significant impact due to specifically hydro line clearing on the canopy cover. And the reason is the shape of the crown from above is not going to change. You are absolutely right in terms of the leaf area. The leaf area of the tree are going to be impacted, and the leaf area is the generator of providing oxygen and removing carbon dioxide, but not canopy cover on its own. So we are having a target of canopy cover. Hydro line clearing is not doesn't have a significant impact on that, based on a 1-year study on one of the 4 zones of hydro line clearing zones. So I hope that I could answer your question.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe just there may be some specific areas, you know, I mean, down by Lakeshore, there's many old mature trees, seems like half of them are missing from the clearance, and you just think, well, if that, you know, kind of covered the whole street, that would almost double the canopy in that area. I realize that's a small percentage in the scope of the town, but just putting it out there as we tear up, you know, streets and do construction projects, you know, maybe the cost of burying some wires goes down because the road's already torn up, and then we could see some canopy benefits. So, and I was just reading about some other municipalities looking at that. So I'll just leave it with you. One other question: does permeable pavement, does it help the root system much? I know you're saying with hard surfaces, hard to get, you know, it's affecting the root system. There's a few parking lots in the town. There's one down south Shell Park that has more permeable pavers. Does that help? Like, is the water kind of getting through there into the root system of the trees, and is that a technique that could potentially help the canopy?
Through you, your worship, definitely yes. We have sidewalk, which is suspended sidewalk. We do have in Oakville, we do have silver cell, and we do have structural soil anything and everything can provide growing space for the tree and make more available growing space larger helps, including all the examples that you provide. And we appreciate and we do consider that in some of the development application, it has been considered in different areas. We do have in our website, we do have a map showing all the silver cell and structural soil and different engineering method providing more growing space for the tree in our websites. And it is appreciated, and that definitely helps.
Okay, thank you very much for your work on this.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chisholm, you were the one who most likely to have comments on the presentation, having asked for it.
Well, I don't know where to start for now, with time and so forth, with other topics on tonight's agenda. I'll make it brief. This whole report, the two reports go in hand in concert. And reading this report is very comprehensive, and it is complex. And I understand the challenges that Jalil and Chris have with respect to plantings, because we're running out of land to plant these trees, and now we're looking at private properties and so forth. Even looking at hydro right-of-ways or the 16-mile creek basin. There's spaces here and there for the canopy. But what I'm really impressed with, and I'm glad that internally staff got together to look at efficiencies with respect to forestry and putting it under one umbrella. As you know, we had forestry in our parks and open space, and then we had engineering and planning with respect to site plans and so forth. And there was some confusion by the public because they don't understand. We had two sections or two units dealing with trees, and it was confusing. So I'm very happy that we brought this together under one umbrella, and for efficiencies and the permitting and having the same message go out to our residents. This 40% is going to be a challenge with respect to invasive species and other challenges of private land ownership with Councillor Merribrick brought up. However, we jumped, I wasn't on council, but the leap of faith of having a private tree bylaw was up in arms with a lot of people and saying, how dare you tell me what I can do on my private property? But it has its positive aspects of moving forward the last 5 or 6 years in the private tree bylaw and understanding, and the community I think has embraced it and doing what we're doing moving forward. I have full support from myself, and hopefully that in the future we get to our 40%. I hope to be around 2057 to see it happen. So my congratulations to Jalil and Krista on an excellent report and moving forward and making some very concise and provocative recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Thank you very much for the report, and congratulations on the amount of plantings and the recovery and moving it forward. I have a few questions related to a little bit to what Councillor Amira said. So thank you for explaining that there is some flexibility based on the different kinds of properties or conditions. If somebody is ordered to have to plant 4 trees, but in fact is prepared to plant 2 that are much larger, is that level of flexibility available to them?
Through you, Your Worship, yes, because the size of the tree replacement, minimum size per bylaw is 30 mil caliper or 1.5 meters height for conifer trees. Often residents ask if they can plant larger trees in lieu of 2 trees, and we accepted that, and we're going to continue accepting.
Great, thank you. My other question is just this consulting with other stakeholders. Did Oakville Green comment at all or participate in reviewing the report or in your recommendations?
Through you, Your Worship, in Urban Forest Strategic Management Plan, yes.
Okay, thank you.
They were actively involved, yes.
Perfect. And then the other is there any relationship with the chamber in regards to tree plantings? Because as I was reading, the employment lands in some areas do have potential for tree planting. And obviously it takes a partnership. have we connected with the Chamber of Commerce on that?
Through you, your worship, we did have representative of developers, not from the chamber, in the community group. To the best of my knowledge, no.
Okay. I'd suggest we have a conversation with the chamber, because I think we may find that there's some spots where depending on how we make it work, we may be able to get more trees there. And my last clarification that I just want to get is around site plan. So on page 345 of our deck, or page 6 of the updated private tree protection, it talks about there are ways, even though it is covered by site plan, that we can have greater say about the trees. But one of the frustrations I often hear is the attempt to save trees that are close to the footprint of the house, but really aren't in the footprint of the house. So am I to take from what you've written that will make greater efforts to try and protect those perimeter trees where the footprint of outside the footprint of the house?
Through you, your worship, site plans are being regulated under Provincial Planning Act. One of the exemptions from private tree bylaw is Planning Act. For that reason, we are not able to enforce private tree bylaw. Under Planning Act, the planning department set canopy, through canopy plan, set canopy targets. Canopy target is, and within the canopy target, we are able to preserve some of the existing tree and also recommend additional tree. And we do have a say prior to building permit, because they have to obtain their site plan in order to issue the building permit. So site plan is an applicable law. We are capable of preserving any trees outside of building footprints.
Okay. Well, and I would concur with what Councillor Chisholm said. It's nice that it's under one umbrella so that we're all singing from the same song sheet, and hopefully more people embrace saving more, or at least planting at least what we need to. Thanks very much for the detailed report and all the effort you put into ensuring we have some place to have shade and to breathe more healthy.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Graham.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. In your response to Councillor Haslett-Thiel, you'd mentioned developers and the importance of private partnerships in encouraging more tree growth. I know at one point there was a hope up in the Uptown Core that the parking lot that encompasses Walmart and the Superstore was hopefully going to have trees covering part of that parking lot to try and reduce some of the heat and add some green growth in the area. So I'm just wondering, when you talk about private partnerships, when we're talking to these people, what kind of incentives are we going to be able to offer to developers to encourage them to include trees on their properties as they continue to build new condos, new retail, even new industrial throughout Oakville?
To you, your worship, it's an excellent point. Through our partnership engaging with Conservation Halton, Region of Halton, we are trying to find ways, even we are in active dialogue with LEAF in Toronto, to find a way that we can communicate with the commercial sides, the owners, the developers. However, we have not achieved that much of success to provide you a real example of a partnership. In 2 years, we were able, if any of those sites apply for a private tree removal in non-development related, not development related, we were able to engage a LEAF, which worked with our Oakville Green for 2 years, to plant trees for them with a subsidized cost provided by LEAF. So they were an effort that we have tried in 1 or 2 years, but I believe that there is a possibility, and also Urban Forest Strategic Management Plan identified the need to engage more, as you mentioned, with private homeowners as 58% of the land south Dundas are private land.
All right. Is there any way that you could possibly, though, insert yourself into the process of development, say at the site plan level, and say look over something and suggest, you know, a tree would be really pretty here, or a bunch of trees through this parking lot could reduce heat and reduce problems for the people parking in the area. Is that anything that you can do about that?
I think, Councillor, that Director Mark may have a contribution on your point. Mr. Mark?
Through you, Mayor Burton, to Councillor Grant. That type of conversation happens regularly with our planning department, our urban design group, and our colleagues in site plan. There is requirements for planting buffer strips in commercial areas. And I know that they are definitely aware of that. And we have ongoing conversations about site plan tree planting. So I know that does happen, not really within our operations group that Janelle heads up, but through planning and site plan applications that come in, we are aware that they are exactly addressing what you're concerned about.
Okay, thank you. And I know anybody can do it. I have great faith in your department and your ability to get us to our tree canopy in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Madam Clerk, would you call the delegations?
Yes, the delegation that we have for this item is Pierre Sauvio. He is on the telephone. So Pierre, if you'd like to join us.
Welcome, welcome, Mr. Sojo. Council looks forward to your information. Mr. Sojo, please begin.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you. I wonder if you'd be able to play my presentation.
Yes, Mr. Sauvio, we're unable to present your presentation as you sent it to us in a format we were unable to read.
Oh, unable to read. That's unfortunate. However, I'll go into the various points I want to discuss. And it's unfortunate that the presentation is, and it gives a very visual impact for both council as well as the public. But the various areas I want to discuss, first of all, it's in regards to the 40% urban forest cover by 2057, as well with respect to parking lots. And the third area is strong political and public support for trees. And in the report appendices provided in the report by Jalil, it shows that the town has, in 2018, has one of the highest within the Ontario municipalities of 31.2. However, there still needs to be a better job to be done. Achieving the 40% urban forest covered by 57 requires a broad range of action. I mean, the continual and incremental improvements in the conflict policy and growing environment, and staff and town have addressed that. I wanted to play a small song in regards to parking lot by Joni Mitchell, where the song is about taking things for granted and not appreciating what you have until you are deprived of it, and then you suddenly realize how important to you it should have been. One of my visual slides was showing the aerial view of just a little bit south of Dundas, off the Trafalgar, the whole complex of Walmart, Supermart, the Longos area, and the other areas near that. And visually, you can see there's no trees whatsoever in these parking lots. And a next slide, which I showed, was there were like areas within the happy medium where you could plant trees, where the trees were dead, cut down. And what happened was those areas were just paved over with concrete. So that's an issue which needs to be addressed by the town. I know we have a parking lot regulations, however, it's very challenging to enforce. And I believe better enforcement is needed. While planning and policies are good, getting trees planted and maintaining them is an issue. I just want to summarize one other point. In the report, it shows that we have in 2005 and 2015 for impervious area land coverage. In 2005, it was 42%, but in 2015, it is now at in 2015 it's at 46%. So I believe parking lots represent an area of improvement for the town. Parking lots make up about 5% or given to 700 hectares of the town's land area. Green parking lots with trees has the added benefit of increasing tree canopy in areas that are generally deficient in forest cover. In summary, I just want to say the success of the forestry program in Oakville has been and will continue to be the result of strong political and public support for trees. In regards to the strong political support, obviously council is doing that. With respect to public support, I still think there needs to be more of a communication with public in their private yards to plant trees and show the benefit of planting trees. I myself, my backyard, I'm just a little south of Dundas, so just south of North Oakville, and I planted over 15 to 20 trees in the backyard. I may not have a large lot, but the trees have grown tremendously. And every morning in the spring, summer, I go out there, I breathe the fresh air, and I feel at peace and calm. So I just wondered if more communication could be made to the public to support trees. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Sojo, for your summary of the staff report and your good words for trees. Madam Clerk, is there another delegation?
I beg you, Mayor Burton, it wasn't really a summary of the report presented to council by staff. I highlighted specifically in regard to the parking lot where improvements can be made and should be made. So I believe that's an issue that needs to be addressed by you, council, as well as staff.
Thank you very much for sharing your opinion, Mr. Sojo. Madam Clerk.
You're quite welcome, Mayor Burton. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
We do not have any further delegations on this item.
All right. Council, there's no listed delegation for item 10.2, and the presentation covered both. Councillor Shi, would you like to expand your motion to approve 10.1 to include 10.2? Councillor O'Meara, do you have another thought?
I do. Sorry, Your Worship. I did want to ask a question on the private one, and I know we kind of had both of them together there, so I don't know if I've got time to do that still.
You do, because I'm going to take Councillor Shi's motion on 10.1 and ask if there's any objection, and I see none, and so that's carried. And now 10.2 is in order and on the table, and Councillor O'Meara, you're first.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And I really like the idea of being able to take a picture of invasive buckthorn and having residents get rid of it. I think that's a great tool. My question is, and I know Director Mark, you and I have had long discussions about garland and being able to apply it at the root so it doesn't come back. A lot of times when people cut it down, it's irrelevant unless they go down and they shovel and they take the roots out. Would we possibly consider a program where we might be able to have staff, because garland is a chemical that's banned in the Pesticides Act, but municipalities and landscape people can use it. Would there be a way that maybe we look into how we can assist people in their private property? If they're going to remove buckthorn, it almost doesn't make any sense unless we can go and make sure it doesn't come back, or else it'll just continue to spread. So is there something we might be able to do to work on a program where we, as the authoritative body who can use this chemical, would be able to go by and help? Or how do we make it so that we're not just chasing our tails with this buckthorn issue?
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. Council Director Mark may have the answer.
Through you, Mayor Burton. Councillor O'Meara, I think one of the best tools we can provide the community with regard to buckthorn is education. Because a lot of the people are not clearly understanding exactly what you just expressed in terms of removing it. It's invasive and it does come back. The private industry does have the same ability to apply Garland as we do as the town. I don't believe we would ever get into a situation where we would be working on private property to that degree, but we certainly can provide the information to people about what they need to do to fully remove and treat the Garland, treat the buckthorn, so it doesn't come back. That's either in conversations on site with the residents or through our website. And we can certainly look at our website, update it for better information and more clarity, so that we can achieve better results on the private lands as we are getting on the public lands.
Okay, yeah, I say that because private residents aren't allowed to have access to Garland from my research. So yeah, so I think we might be chasing our tails a bit on this one, because you really can't get rid of it, like I said, unless you put chemical on it. So there's no, I'm not sure what to do with this, because education is important, obviously, but we've got access to it. We're trying to get rid of it, and I guess there's no way we can help people with that then as the legal authority to have this chemical.
Mr. Mark, could you just clarify? I thought I heard you say that private contractors do have access. Was that the distinction you were trying to make here?
Mayor Burton, correct. I mean, we would hold the same licenses under the Pesticides Act as private contractors. Not every private contractor would have it, but certainly there are a number out there who do possess the licenses that our staff do and could apply Garland just the same as we do on public open spaces.
Perfect. Thank you. Maybe we can share that information on a website or something. I appreciate it. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Councillor Chisholm.
I'm just, did we separate 10.2? So if you need a motion to approve, I move.
Thank you, Councillor. That's very timely. Is there any objection to Councillor Chisholm's motion? There being none, you're successful, Councillor Chisholm. Thank you and congratulations. All right, Council. 10.3 beckons. This is the slight change to the Town of Oakville procedure bylaw to permit workshop meetings. Staff are available to answer questions, but I think I could solicit a motion. Councillor, how's it feel?
Mayor Burton, happy to move it. I did have one question, and that was just in terms of education pieces. So the region has done this quite successfully. Am I reading it correctly that we can still have a dialogue to try and have a conversation about sort of the pros and cons of different elements of whether of a subject, that it's not just a one-way informational piece?
Ms. Clerk Titanic, you're up.
During a workshop, it is for educating and training, and it would be a two-way conversation when you're learning about something if you're not clear on items, so I can see it as a back and forth.
Okay, perfect. Happy to move it, Mayor Burton.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion by Councillor Hazlitt-Beale? I see a hand by Councillor Chisholm. Is that an objection?
No, not objection, just a clarity. With discussion back and forth, there's no approvals being staged at any of these workshops. Therefore, I would assume or understanding those discussions could happen as long as there's not any official approvals or moving forward agenda item. Is that correct?
That's
That's
right.
correct,
Oh, sorry.
Councillor. Workshops don't make decisions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Hazatil, I see no objection after all to your motion and it carries. Thank you. Council 10.4, the Lakeshore Road West Detailed Design Project Scope. We have a presentation available from Jill Stephen, and who is our Director of Transportation and Engineering, and Christina Tizard, the Manager of Urban Design. Is a presentation needed? Councillor Doddick, what is your wish here?
I'd be pleased to move it, Your Worship. We've had extensive discussions amongst the area councillors, and this has been before us on numerous occasions, and I think we've got a good place to land.
All right, thank you. I accept your motion. Councillor Chisholm, you're next.
Thank you, Worship. I do have a question on 10.4 with respect to the streetscape topic with respect to how that's going to be handled. I read the report. The question, can I, through you, Your Worship, directed to staff, understanding that the streetscape projects are both Kerr Street and Bronte. And I know Bronte, and I understand the significance of having it done in Bronte right away because of everything else with the Lakeshore development. But does that preclude the Kerr Street being put on hold, or is it simultaneously going to be worked on same as the Bronte one? Because I did, if you remember correctly, I did bring this forward to council over almost 2 years ago with respect to the Kerr Street design concept for Kerr Street. Then we with graciously we added Bronte into it, which I think was very, very important. But I just want to understand the logistics and timing because looking at the streetscape, I think it's at 2029 for Bronte. Now, if that's a stop time for that, is that a go start for Kerr Street? I just want to know, because I was very concerned at that time, if we're moving this forward, to have this down to a 5-year window, and now it seems to be being pushed out. I just want to have clarity from staff and how this is going to work with respect to the work has to be done for both.
Councillor, Director Stephen will likely be able to answer your question, which I'm understanding to be, is any change to the Kerr Street streetscape work resulting from this change of scope of the Lakeshore Road West Detailed Design Project? Director Stephen?
Well, Mayor Burton, I may suggest that Christine Tizard, the manager of Manager and Planning, provide the answer on the streetscape. Planning will be leading that study.
All right.
Oh, thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Burton and members of council. To address the question, both projects will be operating concurrently. And the nature of the streetscape projects is really to come up with the master plan, the conceptual design, and then, of course, identifying which corridors and segments come first in terms of the implementation. So then they'll go into the detailed design. And so the intent of the report this evening is to focus on Bronte as a result of the detailed design work for that district, and how the master planning for the streetscape will now come before that. So it's a pause on the detailed design work for Bronte. But to reassure, we are moving forward on schedule with both districts concurrently.
Ms. Tizard, did you mean to say it's a pause on Bronte's streetscape?
The detailed design work.
I see. All right. I hope clarity has been achieved. Councillor Chisholm, are you satisfied? Okay. I'm trying to remember who moved this.
Mayor Burton.
Councillor Duddick has put up her hand, and we'll give her the shot. Is there an objection?
Mayor Burton, if I could interrupt, it's Vicky. I'm not sure, we may have a request for delegation on the phone, if you just give me a moment.
Yeah, okay.
We've given a link to Harry Shea from the BVRA here to speak to this item. We're just waiting for him to connect.
All righty.
I believe he's having trouble connecting. If you could just be patient for a few minutes.
We are perfectly happy to be patient.
Mayor Burton, while we're waiting, item on our internal information 14.4, could we maybe ask a question on that before we go in camera on the other items?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah, my goal is to do everything that's public before we go into camera, including the notice of motion from Councilor Wischina a month ago that has to do with renaming Tudor.
Thank you.
So that it's a totally efficient ending, hopefully. Council, let me ask if there is any opposition to Councillor Lischina's motion to rename Thor. Councillor Lischina, I hope you're not objecting.
No, but I would like to speak to it.
Yes, I'm not proposing to call it now.
Okay.
Although, depending on Mr. Shea's progress, we could table 10.4 pending Mr. Shea's arrival and take up Councillor Lischina's motion. Would someone like to move tabling our discussion on 10.4? Councillor Chisholm, thank you for that. Is there anyone objecting to tabling that for now? No? Then that carries. Thank you. Councillor Lischina, I'm calling on the table your item and your recommendation. Mr. Shea.
Good timing.
Before I begin, let the record show that I sent my email in at 7:49 this morning.
Well, thank you, Mr. Shea. Could you just bear with us a moment? We'll be right back to you. And we won't be long. We did a little procedural thing while we were waiting for you. And we weren't optimistic enough to know that you would appear immediately. Councillor Lischina, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. So yes, indeed, this motion is regarding toll work, and I thank my colleague, Councillor McNeese, for seconding it. Just a quick little background why we're here. Toll Wharf was formed back in 1954 by Police Chief Fred Oliver, who was also a previous council member, following a tragic accident on Lake Ontario claiming the lives of several youth and adults from the local community. Originally, it consisted of several boats and float planes, hence the name Town of Oakville Water Air Rescue Force. The organization has grown and is now a proud part of the Canadian Search and Rescue SAR system. As part of the Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary, Toll Wharf trains and works alongside assets from multiple agencies. Today, over 50 volunteers proudly provide search and rescue capabilities from their headquarters here in the Oakville Harbour. In the summer of 2023, the membership was surveyed regarding the brand and identity of the organization. The results of the survey identified that the name Toll Wharf and associated branding no longer accurately reflected the scope of their services and often confused the public. In particular, the term air, which is no longer part of their services, and of course the use of force, which misrepresents what the unit does. So a committee was formed and several names were presented, and the new name, Oakville Marine Search and Rescue, was selected as it concisely communicates the scope of services and maintains the important link to the town of Oakville. So it is more in line with the naming conventions of other SCR units across Canada. And so thank you again, and I hope to have everyone's support.
Thank you. Councillor Longo. Procedurally, you were, I believe, the seconder for this motion, or was it Councillor McNeese? I just remember.
Councillor McNeese.
Councillor McNeese. Somebody had a hand in getting it here. So, Councillor McNeese, you might like to speak to the matter, as indeed other members may. Councillor McNeese.
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to Councillor Longo for all his work and getting it this far. Yeah, this is an exciting year for this organization. They're celebrating their 70th anniversary. So with a new name and a new vessel this coming summer, and I hear rumors that they might find a home in Brownie Harbor one day too. We'd be happy to welcome them. So Oakville Marine Search and Rescue is certainly a fitting name for the important work that they do, and Natalia and I would be appreciative of council support, and it sounds like we may have it. And I was a sailor growing up, and certainly seen them out there doing their good work, and may have been rescued a time or two in my adventures on the water. So certainly, in my mind, an essential service and a great asset for Oakville's harbors and beyond.
Thank you, Councillor McNeese. Councillor Longo, anything from you?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to echo the comments by my colleagues, Councillor Lischina and Councillor McNeese. An incredible group of people. They're volunteers. The men and women are absolutely professional, and the help that they give to people on the water is incredible. So very glad to hear the new name and also the upcoming new vessels. So congratulations to the organization, and yeah, love supporting them. They've done a great job for our community.
All right, council, I propose to call for this to be a recorded vote, and if there's no objection, the clerk will record all of our names in support. And since 14 of the 15 of us are here, that should be a resounding statement of support to OMR, or is it Omar? We'll have to see what pronunciation of the acronym will gain favor. There being no objection, that was an indirect call for objections, if any. This is the overt call. Madam Clerk, I see no objections and the matter is carried. I need a motion to pick up from the table item 10.4. Councillor McNeese, thank you. Is there any objection to that motion? There being none, we are returning to 10.4, which we tabled briefly while we waited for Mr. Shea, who represents the Bronte Village Residents Association, to join us. Welcome, Mr. Shea. We look forward to your remarks and your information.
Good evening, Mayor Burton and members of Town Council. Speaking on behalf of One Bronte, One Voice, and certainly including the BVRA, I want to first begin by saying how thankful we are that the project is finally getting done, and certainly much sooner than originally contemplated. What did we learn from the lakeshore reconstruction in downtown Oakville from a few years ago? How can we take those lessons learned and apply them to this project? I hope as we move forward to hear from staff accordingly. Tonight, my goal is to express the importance of being proactive and mindful how we keep our village vibrant through this road reconstruction process. Of course, we need a plan to manage it, but more importantly, we need to ensure our small businesses and our community be able to survive through it all. We ask that a construction ambassador be assigned, just as there was in downtown Lakeshore Road reconstruction. Equally important, we'd like to see a marketing and communication strategy of how we're going to brand this area and continue to attract visitors through this largest wave of construction that our community has ever seen. We expect nothing less than what was done for and in downtown Oakville during the Lakeshore Road reconstruction there. Many aspects of our business community are currently struggling, and this construction activity will just compound it. Accordingly, we need an economic development plan to get through this construction phase. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that all the activities we have come to know and love, like music with the OWO on Tuesdays and late notes on Thursday evenings, or the cultural events like the Afro-Caribbean Festival, or Art in the Park, all take place at the Bronte Heritage Waterfront Park, and will have additional challenges thrust upon them during the road reconstruction. It's not being overly dramatic, rather just stating a fact that all of Oakville comes to Bronte to enjoy our natural resources, along with these socially engaging activities which contribute to making Oakville the most livable. And for the residents who call Bronte home, how will this concentrated area remain livable? Lastly, I do not see any reference in the report to the bridge that goes over Bronte Creek from the Bronte Harbor Park and it's connecting to the other side with the Bronte Bluffs and the Sovereign House. Navigating the narrow sidewalk is not engaging with vehicular traffic passing by so closely. Will this bridge be addressed during the Bronte Beach redevelopment? And finally, One Bronte, One Voice will be following up this public delegation with a more detailed written letter as a follow-up. We do not just want to maintain the status quo with concerts and events during this wave of construction, but we want to do a bit extra to give even more reasons to visit our village and to engage our small business. I thank you for your time.
Thank you for the time you took to bring us that message. We appreciate your continuing interest in the health of the village. Councillor McNeese.
Just if I could point a specific question to staff from the delegation, just around the Bronte Bridge. I understand that There, of course, won't be a reconstruction, but there could be a widening of the sidewalks there through this project. Is that accurate? Or I believe it goes to Mississauga Street.
Ms. Tizard?
Oh, yes, through you, Mayor Burton. Councillor McNeese, yes, we will be taking a look at the bridge over Bronte River. Or Bronte Creek, sorry. We will, the extent of the study area actually starts at West River in the far west, comes across Lakeshore all the way to Bronte Athletic Park in the east. So we will be covering that section of the corridor, and that will include the bridge. There are also, we will be looking at Bronte Road. That's incorporated in the streetscape study, as well as the local streets within the district. All those that are contained within the boundary of the growth area.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I propose to call the vote on 10.4 now. Is there any objection to the motion by Councillor Dudek? Madam Clerk, there's no objection, so that's carried. Thank you, everybody. And that completes our discussion items. Now, before we go into camera, we have some public items for which we might spend some time. Councillor Elgar is interested in asking a question about one of the information items in section 14. And I'd look for any other questions about any other public matter on the agenda, whether in committee of the whole or later after we rise and report. All right, then Councillor Elgar.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. Mayor Burton, this is the annual indexing of the development charge rates, and it kind of ties in with what our CAO Closey provided to us at the end of February in our monthly report, where she highlighted our revenue loss in 2023, which was kind of a shocking $20,550,833, which was because of Bill 23 bylaw phase-ins, Bill 106 rate freezes, and the parkland dedication changes. So these are costs that are now, I guess, borne onto the existing residential people that live here. And I'm just wondering, do we have any idea what the impact will be for 2024? Because the CA Closey did an excellent job of summarizing 2023, where we lost revenues of over $20 million. And do we have anything similar that we could maybe project even on development charges through 2024 for all of these things, if in fact the province does not make us whole?
Madam CAO, how much crystal ball do you want to engage in?
Through you, Mayor Burton, through the CAO update, we are providing the ongoing numbers throughout 24. So I think the current one was to the end of, or the next, each month will be to the current amount that we left. So I'm not crystal balling at all into 2024, but I will give you through the finance department, and I see Nancy on as well, the most current amounts that we've lost through the changes through Bill 23. Nancy, did you have anything to add?
Through you, Mayor Burton, the most recent up-to-date number is 21.8 million in losses.
So if I understood that correctly, every month we'll have a fresh number to push out through our council newsletters, should you be interested in sharing that kind of information.
That's correct.
I want to say I really appreciate it. I was so happy to see that we're getting it. And then my next question is,
maybe you're happy, not happy to see it?
Well, I'm happy that we're finding out the number. It's terrible what the number is, but I'm also wondering, can we start firing off our emails to people at the province to say, like, when are they going to make us whole on all these changes they have impacted on us negatively to the people of Oakville? Is there anything we can do as a municipality?
You could suggest to your constituents that they address this through emails to their MPP. Some wards have one MPP, some have another. There may be a ward, and yours might be it, that has, depending on where you live, both MPPs. And you can, of course, copy the Minister of Municipal Affairs. And I believe that grassroots emails are the big city mayors, we raise it with them. We meet with the province quarterly. We raise it every time. So new voices might be a good idea to add to the mix.
Mayor Burton, I appreciate what you're saying, and you know something, I'll take up the challenge, and I hope other councillors do also, because like it's not right, and we have to let people know how much what we have done with our tax rates are relatively low. But if this continues and we don't get help from the province, things will have to change, and I don't want to see that happen. So I'd like to thank staff for providing this, and I see it's going to come every month. It's already jumped since the end of December 2023. I see it's already up another 1.8 million, basically. So, and that's just in a month. So I thank you very much. And
you're very welcome.
I'll take up the challenge. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any requests for reports? I'm not aware of any.
Mayor Burton, there was a request for report that was circulated right before the meeting by Councillor McNeese.
Oh. Oh, and look, there it is. So we have a request for report moved by Councillor McNeese, seconded by Councillor O'Meara, that staff review the private property parking bylaw and report back with options by May or sooner, including removal of towing authority for private property parking offenses to address predatory towing in Oakville. That's an interesting request. Madam CIO, do you have any comment on this? And does Mr. Carr?
I'm happy to speak to it as well, Mr. Mayor, to give some context.
I just want to get a little bit of staff feedback first.
Mayor Burton, I haven't seen the request earlier. So right now I don't, and in fact, I would benefit from any comments. I don't know if Doug from the councillor in terms of what he's looking for in the report.
Okay, so Solicitor Carr, have you seen this request for report?
No, sir, I have not.
I
know that Dennis Perlin has been working with the ward councillors to advance some of the issues that they've raised in regard to this matter, but I'm not familiar with this particular request.
Oh, may I read it to you?
Sure.
Review the private property parking bylaw and report back with options, including removal of towing authority for private property parking offenses. So do we have the power to do that?
It's challenging for me to say in the moment, Mayor Burton. I think if we quickly come to the conclusion that we do not, that would be foremost in the report back that we would bring. I'm not sure if the time frame is achievable, since it basically requires a report in April, and we're already at the end of March. Given the clerk's deadlines, it would require a pretty Herculean turnaround on staff's part.
Councillor McNeese, we have a bylaw in effect that gives staff the latitude to take longer if they need to on a timed request like yours. And so it may not be necessary for you to change your optimistic time frame that you put in your request for report. And it may be that based on the solicitor's answer, we should approve this request so that we can get to the bottom of the question of who's got the authority. So you're free to do whatever you want now.
Yeah, through your worship, just some brief context. Yes, Dennis and Jim have been working on this graciously with Councillor Mara. and I, and we've been meeting with the province as well as Halton Region Police for about the past 6 months. What our approach is to be able to utilize the province's new authorities around consent for towing. So this is what we landed on last week. I don't know if we need any more clarity. I think Jim's on the line. And the time frame was provided from staff as well. So
well, in that case, how about I put your request to a vote and we harvest your approval? Is there any objection to the request for report? Madam Clerk, there's no objections shown or seen, so the report is unanimously approved. Thank you guys for bringing it forward. Maybe we get somewhere. It'd be amazing if there's a hidden bonus in the province's new act. I can tell you from my question, I was not expecting. All right, so now we have one more question for council. We have the confidential discussion item, a potential acquisition of land. We have the confidential 11.2, the OLT appeal on the Kerr Street OPA. And we have the confidential item from the consent on security. Do we need to go into camera for 11.1? Which is to say, would someone like to move 11.1 as presented? Councillor Chisholm, thank you. Councillor Haslett-Thiel?
I did have a question on 11.1 that I probably should ask in camera.
Is it a question that's material to the decision, or can you be satisfied by asking staff later?
I can ask staff later.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chisholm's motion is to approve 11.1 as presented. Is there any objection? Madam Clerk, there's no objection, and so that carries. Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. Now, I'm going to assume that 11.2 wants to be considered in a session closed to the public. And I know that the security item from the consent agenda also wants to be. So I'm going to take a motion, which I'm going to read before I ask for, that council retire into a session closed to the public in accordance with the Municipal Act and our procedure bylaw for a matter that may be considered in the absence of the public under section 239 sub 2 of the Municipal Act, because it deals with litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And
Mayor Burton, for 9.3, it would be for the security of the property of the municipality or local board.
Yes, for 9.3, for a matter that may be considered in the absence of the public under section 239 sub 2 of the Municipal Act, because it deals with the security of the property of the municipality or local board. Now I need a mover for that. Councillor Duddick, thank you. Is there any objection? There being none, that carries. And council, I suggest that since we know it takes 5-10 minutes to do all this technological rejigging, that we take a recess for until 8:45, which should give everybody a chance to get a refreshment and get ready for the final leg of the meeting. Is that all right? We are we'll go into recess. We're in camera, we're going to say, and we're going into recess, and And we will come out of recess in camera, and then we will do our business, and then we will rise and we will then come out of camera, and then we will rise and report and in the meeting. Okay, we are in recess. Wow, the technological whizzes get us into an in-camera session. All right, I'm calling the council meeting in public back to order. Council has met in a session closed to the public for the purpose of considering item 9.3 of security update. And that is a matter that could be considered in the absence of the public under section 239 sub 2 of the Municipal Act, because it deals with the security of the property of the municipality or local board. And for the purpose of considering confidential item 11.2 concerning the OLT appeal at Kerr Street, the Kerr Street OPA OLT appeal. And that's a matter that could be considered in the absence of the public under section 239 sub 2 of the Municipal Act, because it deals with litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and the advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. It would be in order for a motion to rise and report to council. Councillor Longo, thank you for being so quick. Any objection? There being none, that carries. And I rise and report the committee of the whole has met and made recommendations on the 10 consent items in the agenda, the 3 confidential consent items in the agenda, and the 4 discussion items in the agenda. And confidential discussion items 11.1 and 11.2 as noted by the clerk. It would be in order to have a mover and seconder to adopt the report. Councillor Elgar and Councillor McNeese. The quick reflexes tonight. Any objection to the report? There being none, Councillor Elgar and Councillor McNeese, your motion is successful, and I thank you for it. We have already dealt with our information items, our status of outstanding issues, our new business, regional reports, and we did a request for report before we went into camera. And now would be in order for a mover and seconder for consideration and reading of the bylaws. Councillor Lischina and Councillor Shi, thank you for that. Any objection to the bylaws? Madam Clerk, there being none, that carries, and the bylaws are considered read and adopted as listed and in the agenda. And that completes the work of the council this evening. Thank you, everybody. It's been terrific working with you, and the meeting is over. Good night.